Hey church, welcome back to the midweek devotional. I'm excited to jump into Acts chapter 3. We're starting at verse 11. I'm excited to go over the three types of Christians and the three types of churches that I find in this passage. And I think that this will help all of us quite a bit. So Acts chapter 3 verse 11. While he clung to Peter and John, all the people, utterly astounded, ran together to them in the portico called Solomon's. And when Peter saw it, he addressed the people, "Men of Israel, why do you wonder at this, or why do you stare at us as though by our own power or piety we have made him walk?" So we talked over this last Sunday and in the last midweek devotional, and how Peter and John healed this man, and he jumped up and instantly began to praise God, and all the people ran to meet him. So let's look now at verse 13, and I think this is where it's going to get really interesting. "The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, the God of our fathers, glorified his servant Jesus, whom you delivered over and denied in the presence of Pilate when he had decided to release him. But you denied the holy and righteous one and asked for a murderer to be granted to you. And you killed the author of life, whom God raised from the dead. To this we are witnesses. And his name, by faith in his name, has made this man strong, whom you see, and the faith that is through Jesus has given the man this perfect health in the presence of you all." And then Peter then goes on and finishes out the chapter with even more of a sermon. And he goes all the way down through the end of this chapter. And I think it points out something interesting to us, and I think relevant to church right now. There seems to be two types of churches and two types of Christians that I think are taking a one-sided approach to what we're going to discuss here. And then I think the third one is very balanced. And the first one is just this. It is Christians who focus, and churches who focus on the experience of Jesus. So they focus on experiencing him. So you'll have churches that are full of believers who their focus is on Sunday morning. They want to experience the worship and experience Christ, and nothing wrong with that. There's nothing I can find that's wrong with this. In fact, our church, we work very hard to be very hospitable, to be a church full of friends, because we want people to come in and feel welcome and experience Jesus in a way that for them might be new, or for them it might be different, or for them it's what they're used to. Our goal is never the styles or the trends or any of those things. Our goal is for people to experience Jesus. But you can find really quickly that those who are focused only on experiencing him, so like this man here experienced Jesus healing him, and the people around Peter and John experienced this miracle. And we could even say that Peter and John experienced the miracle because we know they say that it is Jesus who performs the miracle through them by the power of his Spirit. So there's nothing wrong with experiencing Christ, and there's nothing wrong with creating a really good church experience for people. But I think we need to understand that that's not the end goal. Likewise, Peter and John then begin to teach about Jesus. And there's another form of church and another form of Christianity right now that all their focus is on is we're going to teach and teach and teach and teach and teach and teach. We don't care about the experience. And we don't care about whether others get to experience what we're teaching each other on. And I've seen recently a lot of Christians and a lot of churches kind of head this way. And I think it's out of a reaction to too many churches going fully experience. And so now there's a lot of churches and Christians going fully teaching. And so these churches are going to say, we don't care whether or not, they're not going to verbalize this, right? They're not going to reach out like like Peter and John would to others around them. Instead, it's going to be all about the teaching, all about the teaching, all about the teaching. And that's great and that's good. I think it's wonderful. We at Church in the Wild, we're striving to do more and better and deeper teaching. We are also, however, striving to have a better church experience. And we are striving to balance the two so that the teaching we receive helps others around us to experience the grace that we are learning about. So let me put it to you this way. There's two types of Christians, right? There's one who is, we're all about the experience. And so, you know what? We don't really care about the sermon. Just make us laugh. Have one good quote, tweetable quote, and a good video, and do some really great music, and then have this perfect, wonderful experience. And you'll see this often. We would say that we're striving for excellence, but not perfection, because Christ is perfection. But a lot of times in our effort to have an excellence in our experience, we will lose sight of grace, lose sight of Christ, lose sight of giving grace to people who maybe don't have an excellent week. And so they've made a couple, I forgot that we want to be able to give grace to them in our effort to strive for excellence in the experience. And I've seen a lot of this being forgotten by believers who it is all about the experience. Spend all of our money, spend all of our focus making sure that we have the best experience of any church in Columbus or whatever city you're watching this from. And so on the one hand, you've got this experience-driven church and experience-driven Christians where it's not very deep. It's shallow, and it's kind of, it loses its appeal after a while. And it's so much driven by experience that I think you have a reformation of sorts of a group of churches who say, you know what, we don't care about the experience. All we care about is teaching. And I think the teaching is important, and I think that it's very important. At our church we do the Sunday morning, we do the midweek devotional, then we offer next steps, then we offer discipleship, then we offer pipeline. We want to always be teaching deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's so funny, every now and then I'll get one of these Christians who's only about the teaching, and they'll say, well, I don't think this is deep enough. And I'll ask them, did you go through next steps? No. Are you in discipleship? No. Are you in pipeline? No. Well, it's really hard to get extremely deep in 30 minutes, right? Or you'll see Christians who are all about that experience and, well, I don't like this aspect of your building, or you know what, I wish you did this a little bit better, or you know what, man, that they weren't quite good enough at this, or you didn't tell enough jokes. And we'll see these two, and they begin, and we're seeing now, these two types of churches are beginning to almost combat each other. But I think what Peter and John did was they blended the two. Peter and John gave this man a great experience. Through the power of Jesus Christ and His Spirit, we understand this, okay? We all understand this. They gave this man and the people around them this beautiful experience. They experienced Jesus in a fresh, hospitable, welcoming, wonderful way. And at the same time, they taught in a deep way. He goes in, you read the rest of this chapter, it's really powerful theology that he's sharing, Peter is, and he's talking about history. He's going through, and he's bold. He's saying, hey, you guys killed Jesus. So it seems to me like they are blending the two of them perfectly well. That's our goal at Church in the Wild. That's what we want to be. We want to be a church that's not just only teaching and never sharing the gospel with anyone else. And this is my problem with those who we're only about the teaching. All that teaching's great, but who are you sharing that gospel truth with? If church is only, you're already a believer and you're here and we're going to get in deeper and deeper and deeper, and we're going to talk about how we're smarter and wiser than everybody else, and you got to do it this one certain way or else, nope, you're wrong, you're a bad church. Then I see a lot of arrogance in that, and I see a lack of sharing the gospel with all of that beautiful, wonderful teaching that we should have. Hear me. But if your goal is only experience, people become a face in a crowd and they don't grow. And so you'll see churches where it's all these different things going on, but the pastor doesn't know anyone there. They don't know the pastor. Apart from he's wonderfully good at giving them a good sermon experience. And it's not very deep. And certainly not all churches are like this. Not all who teach are like this, and not all who focus on the experience are like this. But we want to be a church that blends the teaching and the experience, like Peter and John did here. We want to be a church that is both. We strive for excellence in a welcoming, hospitable, fresh experience. And we strive for deep, theologically accurate, powerful, convicting preaching. And we attempt to blend the two and say, now take the teaching and bring this gospel that you're hearing about and share it with all the others around you. I'm all for the teaching. But who is experiencing the gospel because of your teaching? I'm all for the experience. But who's growing because of the experience? I think it's a combination of the two. And I think that Acts powerfully portrays this and powerfully shows this. And Peter and John give us a beautiful, perfect definition and example of how the church can be in this today's current culture. We don't have to have churches that are one or the other. We can have churches that are both. And that's our hope and that's our prayer. Always remember, church, you matter, Jesus matters, grace matters, details matter. I love you. Have a great rest of your week.